Have you ever noticed that whether you are talking to a client in a prenatal appointment or talking to a pregnant family member or even engaging with an acquaintance at a playground, that no matter how much good, solid, evidence-based information you give people, so often they don't listen. They don't take your advice. In Birthing from Within, we have a model for dialogue that can help people to engage with parents, to truly connect with them, to find out their heart's desire in order to give them important information that can help them get to the desired change that they're wanting, get to the place that they're wanting to go. Our model consists of 5 words: validate, motivate, educate, initiate, celebrate. So let's track an example throughout this model so you can see how this really works, okay? Let's say we have a pregnant parent who tells their doula, I think I'd like to have an epidural. Now, what would be the temptation here? So often, the temptation is to say, well, did you know that an epidural can slow down your labor and it makes it more likely that you'll need Pitocin, which can lead to a cesarean? Okay, so this is a scenario that's more likely to have someone put on their brakes, right? This fuels disconnection because this person feels like they have to defend their decision or their desires. So let's see what would happen if we tried it on a different way. Let's begin with validate. What is validate? When we are validating someone, we're meeting them where they are in that moment. And we're bringing the belief that each person is doing their best in each moment, and that they're where they are, what their actions are, or their words are, or their decisions are, makes complete sense based on everything they have experienced in their life up to that point. Okay? So when we validate someone, we're meeting them where they are. We are acknowledging their positive intention, or we're acknowledging their internal dilemma. It's an empathic acknowledgement of what's happening for them in their life. So a validation for this person who is talking about wanting to have an epidural might be, yeah, a lot of parents feel that way going into labor, right? They're seeking out ways to cope with the pain. An epidural is one of those options that we hear is so very helpful in labor for many people. Now, what an empathic acknowledgement or validation is not is mirroring. Okay, so a validation is not, I hear you saying that you want an epidural. It's not that, okay? This also fuels disconnection because they're thinking, of course, that's what I just said, right? You want to know that you really heard them deep down, like, yeah, that's right. A lot of people are looking for a way to cope with the pain. Okay, this person understands where I'm coming from, right? Now, next we move into motivation, which doesn't mean motivating them to make the decision you think is best, but rather to explore what is it that motivates this person? What is it that is fueling this decision or this action or these words? What is behind that? What informs this? So we can explore this by asking how questions or what questions, such as, how do you know to do that? How do you know to make that choice? Or what? What is it? What is it about an epidural that appeals to you as you prepare for your labor? We want to avoid the word why at the motivation part. And the reason is that why feels like it demands a defense of the decision or the action, right? It kind of puts the person on the defensive where now they have to explain, they have to justify what they're wanting to do. But when we ask, well, how do you know to do that? Or what is it about the epidural that appeals to you? This is a more open-ended question, right? They're also slightly unusual questions. which is good because it gets people out of their habitual way of responding. Often at this point, you'll see them stop and pause, maybe look around and think for a moment. This is how we know we're getting somewhere deep. So, if this person tells you that what appeals to them about an epidural is that they were present for their sister's birth, and she screamed the whole time in her unmedicated birth, and the whole family made fun of her, then our education piece is going to look very different from epidurals can slow down your labor. Epidurals make it more likely to have Pitocin, a cascade of interventions, right? This is a very different dialogue now. And when we move into education, we're going to be talking about things like making sounds in labor, right? How that can be normal, how that can be useful. We might be talking about the ecology of the labor space and what it is that makes a laboring person more likely to be able to open up and do whatever they need to do to cope and get through that moment. We may be having a conversation about whom to invite to the birth, right? And how to choose, or how to navigate a dialogue with someone where you're trying to decide if they should be in your labor space, or telling them, yes, I'd like you there, or no, I wouldn't. Do you see how this conversation is now taken a very different turn that is going to speak more to the heart of the matter, to the heart of what they're truly needing? Now, our next piece after educate is initiate. Initiate is to help them step into this place, this new place where they'll be going. Initiate is action oriented. It's where they get to try something on. So initiate can be something like tracing a labyrinth or doing birth art. Initiate can be holding ice to practice pain coping. Initiate can be practicing different positions for labor or hands-on support for partners. And so with this person who's talking about an epidural, initiate may come in the form of practicing labor sounds, practicing a dialogue, practicing pain coping, right? There are many different ways that this person could be initiated, that they could try on this skill that they're needing more of as they prepare to navigate their birth. Because birth is not simply a physiological event. This is not simply a medical event, but it's also a social event. It's an emotional event, right? So there are many different terrains, many different moving parts here that can be addressed and that do come up in labor and affect the way that someone makes their way through their labor, and also the way they relate to themselves and the stories they tell themselves about themselves in the labor. Our last piece is celebrate. Celebrate the new learning. Celebrate the new insight. Celebration can be something as simple as yet another validation. Or celebration could be a high five. A celebration could be more complex, like a foot bath ritual at the end of a class, right? Something juicy and yummy and nourishing that acknowledges, wow, you've taken a step forward. You have a new insight, a new learning, a new idea, something new that you can try, a new realization. And that's very exciting. So I'm excited for you to take this model out there and just try it on. Of course, you can try it on with pregnant folks. You can try it on with clients. You could also try it on with kids or coworkers or friends or family members, and begin to notice how it changes the dialogue when you validate, motivate, educate, initiate, and celebrate.